The stars twinkled peacefully against the black canvas of space. Among them, a sleek silver ship glided silently toward the meeting point near Saturn. Inside, John Miller adjusted his uniform collar one final time. 5 minutes to contact position. Sir, said the pilot. John nodded. At 42, with gray starting to show at his temples, he had never expected to be humanity's first official representative to alien life. Yet here he was, aboard the Earth vessel Olive Branch, about to make history. How do I look, Kate? He asked the woman beside him. Kate Jones, his second-in-command, smiled. Like someone about to change human history forever. Stop fidgeting. The ship's communication system chimed. Ambassador, we're receiving a transmission from the Argelian vessel. They're already at the meeting point. John took a deep breath. Humanity had only learned about the Argelian Federation 3 months ago, when they'd sent a message congratulating Earth on its first successful faster-than-light jump. After decades of thinking they were alone in the universe, the revelation that not only was there intelligent life out there, but a whole federation of alien species had rocked human civilization to its core. Put it on screen, John said. The view screen flickered to life, showing a tall, slender being with pale blue skin and large, multifaceted eyes. 4 arms were folded in what Earth scientists believed was a gesture of peaceful greeting. Greetings. Ambassador Miller of Earth, the alien said in slightly accented English. I am Ambassador Zreltak of the Argelian Federation. We are pleased to welcome humanity to the galactic community. John smiled. The pleasure is ours, Ambassador. Humanity has dreamed of this moment for centuries. The meeting location had been carefully chosen neutral space near Saturn's rings, far enough from Earth to ease any security concerns, but close enough that help wasn't too far away if needed. Not that anyone expected trouble. According to the Argelians, first contact was a carefully managed affair, following protocols established thousands of years ago. The Olive Branch docked with the larger Argelian vessel. John led his team of 5 Kate, 2 scientists, and 2 security officers through the airlock. The air on the other side smelled faintly of cinnamon. Ambassador Zreltak waited with a small group of aides. One stepped forward with a device that hummed softly. A translation enhancer, Zreltak explained. It will help us understand each other beyond simple language. The meeting chamber was a large, circular room with a table made from a material that looked like glass, but felt warm to the touch. The walls displayed moving images of different worlds members of the Federation, John guessed. 7 major species form the core of our alliance, Zreltak explained as they settled around the table, with over 30 associate members. We have maintained peace in this sector for over 2,000 years. That's remarkable, John said. Earth has never managed global peace for more than a few decades at a time. Zreltak's eyes sparkled with what seemed like amusement. That is not unusual for young species. In time, with the Federation's guidance, a sudden alarm cut through the air. One of the Argelian aides rushed to a control panel on the wall. Ambassador, the aide called out, voice sharp with fear. Vikrak's ships have entered the system. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The Argelians moved with urgent purpose, their earlier calm forgotten. Who are the Vikraks? John asked, standing up as his security team went on alert. Zreltak's face had paled to an almost white shade. A predatory species from the rim. They are not supposed to be in this sector. We have treaties. The ship shuddered violently, throwing several people to the floor. Emergency lights flashed red. We are under attack. An Argelian voice announced over the communication system. Kate helped John to his feet. Sir, we need to get back to our ship. The Argelian vessel rocked again with another impact. A section of the ceiling collapsed, crushing one of the Argelian aides. This way, Zriltak urged, leading them toward a different exit than the one they'd entered through. Your ship may already be destroyed. We have escape pods. They ran through corridors, filling with smoke. Twice they had to detour around sealed sections where hull breaches had occurred. John could hear the sounds of weapons fire. They're boarding us, Zriltak said grimly. They reached a small chamber with several oval-shaped pods along one wall. Through a viewport, John could see the battle outside. His heart sank. The olive branch was a floating wreck, torn apart by weapons far beyond anything humans had developed. Around it, several smaller ships with sharp, predatory lines were firing. On the much larger Argelian vessel, "Get in," Zriltak commanded, opening one of the pods. "This is programmed to return to Earth. You must warn your people." "Come with us," John urged. Zriltak shook his head. "I must try to contact the Coalition for help." He pressed something into John's hand, a small data device. "Take this. It contains information about the Federation and coordinates for Coalition outposts." A massive explosion rocked the ship. Kate was thrown against a wall, blood streaming from a cut on her forehead. One of the scientists fell, his leg bent at an unnatural angle. The security officers helped them toward the pod. "We don't even know what they want." John shouted over the noise. "Everything," Zriltak said simply. "They consume worlds, enslave species, take what they need. They've been at war with the Coalition for years. We thought this sector was safe." The door at the far end of the chamber burst open. Creatures entered, tall, armored beings with elongated heads and too many limbs. They carried weapons that glowed with energy. "Go!" Zriltak pushed John toward the pod. The security officers fired their weapons. The shots seemed to do nothing against the armored invaders. One of the officers fell, a smoking hole in his chest. John stumbled into the pod with Kate and the surviving members of his team. As the door began to close, he saw Zriltak fall under the attackers' weapons. The ambassador looked up, meeting John's eyes one last time. "They hunt us all," he gasped. "Call for the Coalition." The pod sealed and launched, the force pushing John back against his seat. Through the small viewport, he watched the Argelian ship rake apart under the continued assault. "Set course for Earth," he told the pod's simple computer. "Maximum speed." As the pod accelerated away from the battle, John looked down at the data device in his hand. Humanity had hoped to find friends among the stars. Instead, they had found war. "They weren't expecting us," Kate said softly, pressing a cloth to her bleeding head. "This meeting was supposed to be secret." John nodded grimly. "Which means they were looking for the Argelians, not us." He closed his hand around the data device. "But now they know about Earth." As the escape pod raced toward home, Earth continued its peaceful orbit, unaware that everything had changed. Help had been expected from the stars. What was coming instead was something much worse behind them. The Craig's ships changed course, following the pod's energy trail. The hunt had begun. 6 months had passed since the disaster near Saturn. Earth had changed. Gone were the celebrations that had followed humanity's first faster-than-light jump. Gone was the excitement about meeting friendly aliens. Now there was only fear and desperate preparation. Nancy Garcia stood on the bridge of the Defiance, Earth's largest warship. At 53, she had spent 30 years in the Navy before being named Admiral of the newly formed Earth Defense Fleet. Gray streaked her black. Hair and deep lines marked her face lines that had grown deeper over the last 6 months. "Status report," she said to the young officer beside her. Lieutenant Alan Wright tapped at his screen. "All 26 vessels report ready, Admiral, though ready is a relative term." Nancy nodded. The ships under her command were a mix of hastily converted cargo vessels, science ships fitted with experimental weapons, and the few actual military spacecraft Earth had possessed before the crisis. Against an enemy that could cross galaxies, it seemed pathetically inadequate. "Any word from the Mars outpost?" she asked. Alan's face darkened. "Nothing since yesterday. We have to assume it's been taken." This was the pattern they had observed. The Vorkrax established bases on Mars and Europa within weeks of the first attack. From there, they launched raids on Earth's orbital stations. 3 had been destroyed already. Strangely, the Vorkrax had not yet attacked Earth directly. Intelligence suggested they were studying humans first. "They're treating us like lab rats," Nancy had told the United Earth Council last week, "learning our weaknesses before they strike." The door to the bridge slid open. John Miller entered, walking slowly with a cane. The right side of his face bore burn scars from the escape pod's damaged heating system during re-entry. Of the 5 people who had fled the Argelian ship with him, only he and Kate Jones had survived the journey home. "Admiral," he greeted Nancy, "I have news." Nancy gestured to her ready room off the main bridge. Once inside with the door closed, John sat heavily in a chair. "The xenolinguists have finally decoded more of the Argelian database," he said. "We have coordinates for a coalition outpost." Nancy's eyes widened. For months, Earth's best scientists had been working to extract information from the device Ambassador Zreltak had given John. Progress had been slow, as human computers struggled with alien data formats. "Where?" she asked. "Proxima Centauri system. About 4 light years from here." Nancy walked to the window, looking out at Earth below. Beautiful blue and green, still peaceful from this distance. How long would that last? "We need to send a mission," John continued. "The Argelian data suggests the Coalition is the only force in the galaxy that has successfully fought the Vx. "We can't spare many ships," Nancy said. "Not with the Vox closing in," John nodded. "A small force, fast ships, in and out." Nancy turned back to him. "I'll propose it to the Council today. But I'll need you to go, John. You're the only one. Who's met an Argelian? The Coalition might listen to you." John looked down at his scarred hands. "I'm not sure I'm the right person for this, Admiral. I'm not even a soldier." "None of us were prepared for this war," Nancy said softly. "But here, we are." 2 days later, the plan was set. While Earth's main fleet engaged the Vorkrax forces in the solar system as a diversion, a small task force would jump to Proxima Centauri. 3 ships, the stealth frigate Venture, and 2 smaller escort vessels. John would lead the diplomatic team, with Kate Jones as his second again. The mission launch was scheduled for dawn. Nancy supervised preparations from the Defiance, now in orbit above North America. John and Kate were already aboard the Venture, running final checks on their equipment. "Admiral," Alan called from his station, "we're detecting multiple heat signatures entering Earth's atmosphere, all across the globe." Nancy rushed to the main screen. Dozens of red dots were descending toward Earth's major cities. "It's starting," she whispered. "They're not waiting any longer." The bridge erupted into activity. Orders were shouted. Warning signals blared. "Get me a direct line to the Venture," Nancy commanded. John's face appeared on screen moments later. "We see it, Admiral. The Vorkrax are making their move." "The mission is more important than ever now," Nancy said. "You need to launch immediately before they can stop you." "What about the diversion?" The fleet was supposed to draw them away. Nancy looked at the tactical display. Vorkrax ships were already engaging Earth's orbital defenses. More were rising from Mars. "We'll still give you that diversion," she said firmly. "The Defiance and the main fleet will engage them directly. Just get to Proxima Centauri and find us some help." John nodded, his scarred face grim. "Good luck, Admiral." "You too, John. Earth is counting on you." The connection cut off. Nancy turned. To her crew, battle stations. All ships form up on the Defiance. We're going to hit the main Fakrax force head-on. Alan looked up from his station, face pale. Ma'am, we're outnumbered at least 3-1. I know, Lieutenant. But we don't need to win. We just need to keep their attention long enough for the Venture to get away. As the Earth fleet moved into position, Nancy watched the tactical display. The Venture and its escorts were powering up their FTL drives, preparing to jump. All ships, this is Admiral Garcia, she broadcast to the fleet. The enemy has come to our home, thinking we will be easy prey. Today, we show them that humanity will not fall without a fight. For Earth. Their responses came back, strong and clear. 26 ship captains, men and women who had once been scientists, engineers, and traders, now transformed into warriors by necessity. The first SDIPs entered firing range. Energy weapons lashed out, striking the forward Earth vessels. The human ships returned fire with everything they had: kinetic weapons, missiles, hastily adapted mining lasers. Nancy watched as the Venture finally disappeared from sensors, successfully. Jumping to Proxima Centauri. They're away, Alan reported. Nancy nodded. Now we make this count. The battle for Earth had begun. In the cities below, people looked up to see streaks of light cutting across the sky, the first signs of the invasion. They didn't know that 26 ships and their crews were all that stood between them and the Fox. They didn't know that their best hope was already racing through space. Searching for allies. Help was expected, but it would not come soon enough. The human fleet would have to hold the line alone. The attack on Earth lasted 3 days. When it was over, cities around the world lay in ruins. The defense fleet that Admiral Garcia had led was reduced to broken ships and floating debris. Of the 26 vessels that had faced the Fakrax assault, only 11 survived, all of them damaged. Frank Hudson stood in the repair bay of the orbital station Hope, watching as technicians worked on the stealth frigate Venture. At 38, Frank had never planned to be a military leader. Before the Fakrax came, he had been a commercial pilot, flying cargo between Earth and the Moon. Now, with Admiral Garcia dead and most of the fleet's command structure gone, he found himself the highest-ranking officer left. How long until she's ready? Frank asked the chief engineer. Another 6 hours, Captain, the woman replied, wiping grease from her hands. The FTL drive took damage during our escape from Earth orbit, but we've got it stable now. Frank nodded. The Venture had been undergoing repairs when the Fakrax attacked. It was pure luck that the ship hadn't been with the main fleet when the enemy struck. That luck had saved it, and now it might be humanity's last hope. He made his way to the station's medical bay. John Miller sat in a wheelchair, staring out a viewport at Earth below. Parts of the planet still glowed orange, where fires burned in major cities. Kate Jones stood beside him, her arm in a sling. It's time to make a decision, Frank said as he entered. The council is scattered. Most government leaders are either dead or in hiding. There's no one left to give orders. John turned his wheelchair to face Frank. His injuries from the escape pod crash had never fully healed, and the stress of recent events had aged him further. What are our options? John asked. Not many, Frank replied. The Fox have established ground control in most major cities. They're rounding up humans by the thousands. For what purpose, we don't know. Slaves, Kate said grimly, or worse. Frank continued, we have the Venture and 2 escort ships still capable of FTL travel. We could try to evacuate as many people as possible to one of the outer colonies on Titan or Europa, but the Fakrax would find them eventually, John finished. What about the Proxima Centauri mission, the Coalition outpost? Frank hesitated. With what's happened here, is that still the priority? We could use those ships to save people. How many could we save? A few hundred? 1,000? John shook his head. Against an enemy like this, our only real hope is finding allies. We need to continue with the original mission. Kate looked between them. The Admiral would have wanted us to find help. That was always the plan. After a moment of silence, Frank nodded. All right, we proceed with the Proxima mission. I'll command the venture myself. We'll take a skeleton crew, plus you two, and a small team of scientists and soldiers. We leave in 6 hours. The journey to Proxima Centauri took 11 days. The Venture and its 2 escorts traveled in formation, sensors scanning constantly for any sign of Grak ships. The mood aboard was somber. Everyone had lost someone in the attack on Earth. John spent most of his time studying the Argelian data device, searching for any additional information that might help them. Kate worked with the soldiers, preparing them for possible combat. Frank focused on keeping the small fleet together and operational. When they finally arrived at the coordinates from the Argelian database, hope turned quickly to despair. Scan it again, Frank ordered as they stared at the main view screen. Science officer shook her head. I've run 3 scans, sir. The results are the same. The outpost was here, but it's been destroyed. Based on the decay of energy signatures, I'd say it happened at least 2 years ago. The view screen showed a field of debris floating in space. Broken pieces of what had once been a space station drifted silently among the stars. We're too late, Kate whispered. John wheeled himself closer to the screen. Can we send a team to search the debris? There might be something salvageable. Data records, communications equipment. Double quotes. Frank considered this. It's risky. We don't know if the Vox monitor this area. We've come too far to turn back with nothing, John insisted. Frank finally nodded. Prepare a search team, but make it quick. 4 hours later, the search team returned with little to show for their efforts. Most of the outpost's technology had been destroyed or was too damaged to use. But one of the team members, a young woman named Sarah Lay, had found something unusual. It was floating among the debris, sir, she explained as she handed a small device to Frank. It looks like some kind of automated beacon. It's still got power, but it's in standby mode. John examined the device. It was similar in design to the Argelian data storage unit he'd been given, but larger. Can we activate it? He asked. The ship's technical officer took the device to a secure lab. After ensuring it contained no explosives or harmful technology, he carefully activated it. A holographic message appeared above the device. A tall reptilian being spoke in a language none of them understood at first. Then, the ship's computer began to translate. This is Commander Dryle of Coalition Defense Force. If you find this message, the outpost has fallen. Emergency contingency. Coordinates follow. Seek the main fleet in the Horsehead Nebula. Tell them Outpost Proxima has fallen. The Vaishar pushing into this sector faster than anticipated. The hologram displayed a series of coordinates before fading. Silence fell over the room. Then Frank spoke. How far is this Horsehead Nebula? 40 light years, the navigation officer replied. With our damaged FTL drive, that's a journey of several weeks. John looked at Frank. We need to return to Earth first. Report what we've found. Gather whatever forces remain. As if in answer, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Captain, called the sensor officer. Multiple ships entering the system. Vikrak signatures. Frank rushed to the bridge, with Kate pushing John's wheelchair behind him. On the main view screen, they could see 5 Krax vessels approaching from the direction of Earth. They followed us, Kate said. Frank quickly assessed their options. The Venture and its escorts were in no condition for a prolonged battle. Returning to Earth was now impossible. New plan, he announced to the crew. We fight our way out of this system and take the coordinates to the Coalition ourselves. Earth will have to hold on until we can bring help. As the Vox ships closed in, Frank gave the order to power up weapons. The 3 human vessels formed a defensive pattern, preparing for battle. For Earth, Frank said quietly. Then louder. To his crew, all hands to battle stations. We're going to the Horsehead Nebula. The battle in the Proxima Centauri system was brief but fierce. The Krux ships attacked with overwhelming force, their energy weapons cutting through the human vessel's defenses. One of the escort ships, the Swift, was destroyed within minutes. The second escort, the Guardian, took heavy damage, but managed to draw enough fire for the Venture to break away. FTL drive ready, called the engineer as the ship shuddered under another hit. Frank Hudson gripped his command chair tightly. Jump now. The stars outside the view screen stretched and blurred as the Venture leapt into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, the Guardian exploded in a ball of light, its crew sacrificing themselves to ensure the Venture's escape. Once they were safely away, Frank ordered damage reports. The news wasn't good. The FTL drive had been further damaged in the escape, reducing their speed to less than half of normal. The journey to the Horsehead Nebula would now take weeks rather than days. We'll make it, Frank told the assembled crew in the ship's main hall. The Guardian and the Swift didn't die for nothing. We will reach the Coalition and bring help back to Earth. In the days that followed, the crew of the Venture settled into a tense routine, with the FTL drive running. At reduced power, they had plenty of time to prepare for whatever they might find at their destination. The soldiers trained daily. The scientists studied the Argelian data and what little they had recovered from the destroyed outpost by Dr. Lisa Palmer. The expedition's lead xenobiologist spent most of her time in the ship's lab. At 35, she had been one of Earth's top experts on theoretical alien biology before the Vekrax arrived. Now her work had taken on new urgency. 2 weeks into their journey, she requested a meeting with Captain Hudson, John Miller, and Kate Jones. I've made a discovery, she said once they had gathered in the lab. I've been analyzing the biological samples in the Argelian database, comparing them with what we know about the Vekrax. She brought up a display showing complex molecular structures. The Vekrax use biochemical weapons as part of their conquest strategy. These compounds affect the nervous systems of most species, making them easier to control and subdue. John leaned forward in his wheelchair. And this helps us how? Lisa smiled. For the first time in weeks. Humans are different. Our biology, which evolved separately from the species in the Argelian Federation, gives us a natural resistance to these compounds, not immunity, but significant resistance. Can we use this against them? Kate asked. Potentially, Lisa nodded. With the right resources, we might be able to develop a countermeasure that could neutralize the Vrax's biological weapons entirely. But I need more equipment than we have on the Venture. Frank considered this information. So finding the Coalition isn't just about getting military help anymore. We might be bringing them a biological advantage they've never had before. Exactly, Lisa confirmed. It's not just about humanity finding allies now. We might be key to defeating the Vekrax altogether. The news spread through the ship, giving the crew new hope and purpose. When they finally reached the coordinates in the Horsehead Nebula 5 weeks later, they were ready for anything except what they actually found. I'm not detecting any fleet, the sensor officer reported, confusion clear in his voice. Just scattered energy signatures throughout the nebula. Small ships, hidden bases. It looks like a refugee population. Frank ordered the Venture to approach cautiously. They sent out the Coalition recognition codes they had obtained from the beacon. For several tense minutes, there was no response. Then a single ship emerged from the swirling gases of the nebula dot. It was unlike any vessel they had seen before, neither human nor Vecrax in design. It approached slowly, scanning the venture thoroughly before opening communications. A face appeared. On the view screen, a being with mottled green skin, large eyes, and what appeared to be gills on its neck. "I am Commander Zoth of the Coalition Defense Force," the alien said in heavily accented English. "Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Frank stepped forward. "Captain Frank Hudson of Earth Vessel Venture. We've come seeking the Coalition. Fleet, we found your beacon at the destroyed Proxima outpost." Zoth's expression changed slightly. The human crew was still learning to read alien emotions, but it seemed like sorrow. "There is no fleet anymore," Zoth said after a moment. "Not as you imagine it. Follow us to our main settlement." "We will." "Speak there." The Venture followed Zoth's ship deeper into the nebula. Eventually, they came upon a collection of asteroids that had been hollowed out and connected to form a hidden base. Inside, they found representatives of a dozen different alien species living in cramped conditions, not in a meeting chamber carved from stone. Zoth explained the bitter truth to the human delegation. The Coalition has been fighting a losing war against the Vecrax for 30 years. What you see here are the survivors of worlds they conquered. We are all that remains of once proud civilizations. John Miller spoke up from his wheelchair, but the Argelian data suggested the Coalition was a major force. Our only hope against the Vecrax. Once, perhaps, Zoth admitted. But the Vecrax adapt. Quickly, they study their enemies, learn their weaknesses. One by one, Coalition worlds fell. We retreated here to the nebula, where the gases interfere with their sensors. We survive, but we do not thrive. Despair settled over the human group. They had come so far, sacrificed so much, only to find not the powerful allies they had hoped for, but more refugees. "We expected you to need help," Zoth said, looking at the humans with his large eyes. "We didn't expect you to bring us hope." "Hope?" Kate asked. Lisa Palmer stepped forward, explaining her discovery about human biology and its resistance to Vecrax's biochemical weapons. As she spoke, the alien representatives grew increasingly interested. "This could change everything," Zoth said. When she finished, "Our scientists have tried for years to develop countermeasures to their biological weapons. With your unique physiology as a template." For the first time, the humans saw genuine excitement among the Coalition refugees. Plans were quickly made to set up joint research teams. The Coalition had technology and knowledge the humans lacked, while the humans brought new biological insights. But as the initial excitement faded, a hard reality remained. Even with a potential biological countermeasure, they lacked the military strength to challenge the Vecrax, and Earth was still under occupation. John Miller sat quietly during the discussions, listening as others debated strategy. Finally, he spoke up. "We can't wait for a perfect solution," he said firmly. "Every day we delay, more humans die on Earth. We need to return now with what we have." "A suicide mission," Zoth warned. "Not necessarily," John replied. "The Vecrax think they've won. They don't know about us, or this place, or what we've discovered. We don't need to defeat their entire empire at once. We just need to free Earth and give humans a fighting chance." He looked around at the gathered representatives, human and alien alike. "I propose we use the Coalition's stealth technology to return to Earth, not with an army, but with a plan. A plan to start a global resistance against the Vecrax occupation." Frank Hudson nodded slowly. "Not a conventional military strike, but an insurgency, something the Vecrax wouldn't expect." Hope began to grow again in the room. It wasn't the plan they had expected, but perhaps it was the plan they needed. 1 year had passed since the Vecrax invaded Earth, The once blue planet was now scarred by mining operations and processing centers. From his command post in what used to be New York City, High Commander Dreth surveyed his conquest with satisfaction. Humans were proving to be useful slaves, their bodies strong enough for labor, yet easy to control with the right mix of fear and pain. Another productive cycle, Dreth commented to his second-in-command as they reviewed the latest resource extraction. Figures. The Imperium will be pleased. Yes, Commander, the subordinate agreed, though there are still pockets of resistance in some regions. The humans are surprisingly stubborn. Dreth made a dismissive gesture with one of his forearms. Minor irritations. Their militaries are crushed. Their leaders are dead or captured. Without outside help, they pose no real threat. At that moment, an alert sounded. The Quack's command center burst into activity as officers rushed to their stations. Commander, called the communications officer. We're detecting a ship entering orbit. Coalition signature. Dreth's eyes narrowed. Coalition? Here? Impossible. Their forces were broken years ago. The signal is authentic, the officer insisted. They're broadcasting a surrender message on all frequencies. This was unexpected. Dreth considered his options. A coalition vessel, even a small one, could provide valuable intelligence. And if some faction of the coalition was finally admitting defeat, it would be a significant victory for the Imperium. Bring it to the flagship, Dreth ordered. Maximum security. Protocols. This could be a trap. The coalition vessel was small, barely large enough for a crew of 10. It made no evasive maneuvers, as Venom ships surrounded it and guided it into the docking bay of Dreth's flagship in orbit. Scans showed minimal weapons and a small life support signature. What the Vikrax didn't know was that for the past year, a secret operation had been unfolding across Earth. The returned human operatives, led by Kate Jones, had been building an underground resistance network. Using stealth technology provided by the Coalition and the biological research of Dr. Lisa Palmer, they had created weapons specifically designed to target Vikrok's vulnerabilities. Kate now stood in the basement of a ruined building in Chicago, surrounded by resistance leaders from around the world. Their faces were grim but determined, hardened by a year of fighting from the shadows. The ship has docked with their flagship, she announced, looking at the crude communication device in her hand. The distraction is in place. Is everyone ready? Men and women around her nodded. Each would return to their region and lead the coordinated attack they had been planning for months. Remember, Kate continued, this isn't about winning a conventional war. It's about showing them we won't be conquered. About holding out until the real surprise arrives. Meanwhile, in the hidden base in the Horsehead Nebula, Captain Frank Hudson stood on the bridge of a vessel unlike any built before. It combined human ingenuity with coalition technology, creating something the Vecrex had never encountered. All systems ready, Captain, reported Sarah Lee, now his second dash in Dash Command. Frank nodded. And the others? In position, waiting for your signal. Frank took a deep breath. Signal the Venture to activate the jump drive. Back on the Vas flagship, the captured coalition vessel sat in the docking bay, surrounded by armed guards. Inside, a modified jump drive hummed quietly, building to critical levels. It wasn't designed for normal space travel. Instead, it had been reconfigured for a very specific purpose. As High Commander Dreth approached the docking bay to inspect the surrender, the drive activated. A blinding flash filled the massive space as a temporary wormhole tore open the fabric of reality. Dreth shielded his eyes. When he could see again, he froze in shock. The docking bay, which had been empty except for the small coalition vessel, was now filled with ships. Human ships docked during the year of Vakrak's occupation. The few human vessels that had escaped Earth's fall had not fled to safety as the Fkrax believed. Under John Miller's guidance, they had hidden in the outer solar system, in asteroid belts and the moons of distant planets. There, they had rebuilt and modified their ships with technology provided by the Coalition refugees. Now they poured through the wormhole directly into the heart of the Frak's command ship. They weren't the sleek, advanced vessels of the Coalition that Dreth had feared. They were crude, hybrid creations, human ships enhanced with alien technology, piloted by crews with nothing left to lose. Simultaneously across Earth, the resistance struck. In every major city, at every Vkrax installation, humans rose up with weapons, specifically designed to penetrate Vkrax armor and counteract their biological agents. The Vkrax, who had conquered dozens of worlds with the same tactics, found themselves facing something new. Humans didn't fight like the Coalition species. They didn't follow the rules of engagement the Vkrax had come to expect. Human ships rammed directly into Vkrax cruisers. Civilian vessels that the Vkrax had ignored became suicide bombs. On the ground, resistance fighters used their intimate knowledge of Earth's terrain to devastating effect. In his command center, now under direct attack, High Commander Dreth struggled to understand what was happening. How did they coordinate this? He demanded as reports of simultaneous uprisings flooded in. Where did these ships come from? From the communication system came a voice Dreth didn't recognize: John Miller, broadcasting from the Resistance headquarters beneath Chicago. You came to our world thinking we would be like the others you've conquered, John said, his voice calm but fierce. You expected us to need help from the Coalition. What you didn't expect was that we would become the help. The battle for Earth raged for a month. The Frak's, for all their technological superiority, found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer determination of humanity fighting for its survival. The biological countermeasures developed by Dr. Palmer and the Coalition, scientists neutralized the Vkrax's most effective control weapons. Frank Hudson led the space battle, coordinating the human fleet with a tactical brilliance that surprised even the Coalition advisors. Kate Jones directed the ground war, moving resistance forces with precision and courage. When it was over, the Frak's command ship was destroyed. High Commander Dreth was dead, and the remaining Vkrax forces were retreating from Earth orbit. 4. The first time in their long history of conquest, the Krax Imperium had been defeated. In the ruins of Chicago, John Miller sat with Commander Zoff, watching as humans and Coalition members worked together to rebuild a communication center. This is just the beginning, John said quietly. They'll be back with more forces. Yes, Zoff agreed. But by then, we'll be stronger too. News of this victory is spreading across the galaxy. Other subjugated worlds are already beginning their own rebellions. John looked up at the sky, where the combined human Coalition fleet now protected Earth. It wasn't the massive, powerful Coalition fleet they had originally hoped would save them. Instead, it was something better, a fleet built by human hands, fought for with human courage, and now defending a human world. They expected us to need saving, John said with a small smile. They didn't expect us to save ourselves. Across the stars, the message spread. The Vkrax Imperium had met its match, not in the fading Coalition, but in a species that refused to accept defeat. A species that, when pushed to the edge of extinction, didn't just survive. They fought back. Help that was expected never came. The human fleet that wasn't supposed to exist had changed everything.